All right, buckle up, everyone, because today we're taking a deep dive into something pretty fascinating, the ups and downs of Meghan Markle's public image.
Oh yeah, she's definitely been making headlines lately.
And with all the recent buzz about her Netflix deal and some of those, well, let's just say interesting public appearances, we thought it'd be the perfect time to take a closer look and try to figure out what's really going on.
Yeah, I'm really curious to dig into this.
Me too. We've got some spicy online chatter to unpack, especially about that Pasadena appearance and the whole cooking show delay.
Right, there's a lot to unpack there.
Exactly. So are we ready to get this deep dive started?
Let's do it.
Perfect. Now, I think we all remember that visit Meghan made to the Eden Center in Pasadena.
Oh yeah, that one sparked a lot of debate online.
It did. And it really gets to the heart of why public perception is so crucial for someone like Meghan Markle, especially since stepping back from royal life.
You know, every move she makes is analyzed and scrutinized, and it makes you wonder just how much control she really has over her own narrative.
Right. It's like she's under a constant microscope.
Exactly. So even if her intentions were good with the Pasadena visit, did the way it was perceived overshadow any positive impact?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And how much does that matter in the long run?
Well, that's where understanding the concept of brand comes in, right? Think of it as a collection of perceptions and associations that people have.
Oh, I like that.
So in Meghan's case, her brand is this mix of royal connections, Hollywood background, her activism, and of course all the media coverage surrounding her.
And it's all colliding, making it tough to maintain a consistent, clear image, I'd imagine.
Exactly. You've got these different perceptions constantly bumping up against each other.
So how does someone like Meghan, or really anyone in the public eye, navigate that?
That's the challenge, isn't it? And to make things even more complicated, you have to factor in the whole Netflix situation. They delayed her cooking show, and, well, you know how the rumor mill works?
Oh, it went into overdrive. Some are saying Netflix is distancing themselves from the negativity, while others think it's more about the show's quality.
Yeah, it's hard to know what to believe.
So let's break this down a bit. Why is this Netflix deal so significant in the first place? It's not just about a cooking show, right?
No, not at all. Remember, this deal was seen as a major power move for Meghan and Harry. This chance to share their stories and control their narrative on their own terms.
It was their ticket to creative freedom, right?
Exactly. And financial independence, too. But now, with the show's delay and all the controversies, well, the stakes just feel even higher.
It's like they're betting big on Netflix and Netflix is betting on them. What happens if this whole thing goes south?
That's the big question looming over all of this. A successful show could really solidify their brand and show that they can thrive outside the royal structure.
Right, it would be a huge win for them.
But if it flops, well, it could give more fuel to the existing doubts and criticism.
It's almost as if Netflix is playing a strategic game here, you know? Maybe giving Meghan enough rope to hang herself, as some have said.
Interesting way to put it.
But is that really a sustainable strategy for Netflix in the long run?
That's a good question. If they're seen as exploiting a potentially volatile situation, it could damage their reputation too.
Right, it could backfire on them big time.
And for Meghan, it could make it even harder to rebuild her brand and gain back public trust.
Okay, so we've talked about public perception, the whole concept of brand, and this high-stakes game with Netflix. But before we go any further, let's bring it back to you, the listener, for a moment.
Right. Why should any of us care about this Hollywood drama?
Exactly.
Well, because this isn't just about Meghan Markle. It's about understanding the power dynamics between celebrities, media, and public perception in our digital world.
It really makes you think about how much we rely on media and online chatter to form our own opinions.
Absolutely. And how do we navigate all these different, often conflicting narratives?
It's like we're constantly bombarded with information and trying to figure out what's real, what's spin, and what's just plain entertainment.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And the Meghan Markle saga? Well, it's a fascinating case study in how all these forces play out in real time.
And it's a reminder that even in the age of social media and instant communication, controlling your narrative is a constant battle.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, so I think we've laid some really good groundwork here. We've talked about public perception, the idea of brand, and this whole Netflix situation. But there's still so much more to explore. Like, what about those accusations of waning influence and the debate surrounding Meghan's authenticity?
Let's get into it. Okay, so diving into this whole idea of Meghan's waning influence, something that really caught my eye was this whole thing about bots potentially inflating her social media numbers.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder how much those follower counts actually mean these days.
Yeah, I saw that too. And honestly, I'm not even sure I totally understand how these bots work. Is it like a bunch of fake accounts following her to make her look more popular?
It's basically like that, yeah. Imagine thousands of these fake accounts, all programmed to follow, like comment, you name it, just to create this illusion of popularity.
So it's like artificial hype.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, how do you even measure someone's real influence when these bots are muddying the waters?
It's a good point. It's like, are those numbers even real? Or are they just smoke and mirrors?
That's the million-dollar question. And it ties right back into this whole thing about authenticity. If you can't even trust the numbers, how can you know if someone's influence is genuine?
It's like the Wild West out there.
It really is. And it makes this whole influencer marketing thing even more complicated. Brands are paying big bucks based on these metrics, but what if they're not even accurate?
So back to Meghan. Let's say we put aside the whole bot thing for a minute. Are there any other signs that her influence might be fading?
Well, there have been a few things. Remember that deal she and Harry had with the New York Times?
Yeah.
The one that fell apart?
Yeah, I remember that making headlines.
That was seen as a pretty big setback, especially after the success of their Oprah interview. It kind of felt like maybe the tides were turning a bit.
Like maybe the media wasn't as interested in their story anymore.
Yeah, something like that. It was a shift for sure.
So then, is this just a temporary dip? Or is it something more serious?
Hard to say, but it's definitely a crucial moment for her. She needs to find a way to regain control of her narrative and really connect with audiences in a more authentic way.
Which brings us back to that whole authenticity versus opportunism debate, right?
Yeah, critics often point to her charitable work as being more about brand building than genuine philanthropy.
Yeah, I've seen that criticism a lot. Like, is she actually passionate about these causes, or is it all just a PR move?
It's a valid question. And that whole Pasadena visit really brought this to the forefront. Some people felt like it was more about the photo op than making a real difference.
It's hard to know what's going on in someone's head, right? Like, what are their real intentions? Are they trying to do good, or are they just trying to look good?
And it's tricky because in today's world, everything is so image conscious, especially for public figures. They're constantly curating their lives online, presenting a certain version of themselves.
So how do you separate the genuine from the strategic? It's like, are we all just playing a part?
It's a good question, and honestly, it's one that all of us grapple with to some extent. We're all on social media, we're all presenting ourselves in a certain way.
But for someone like Meghan, it's on a whole other level.
Definitely. She's operating on a global stage, and every move is scrutinized.
So how does she even begin to navigate that?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it gets to the heart of what we're talking about today. This isn't just about Meghan Markle, it's about all of us. It's about understanding how public image is shaped in today's media landscape, and how we can become more critical thinkers in a world of information overload.
It's like, we need a new playbook for navigating the digital age.
I think so. We're bombarded with information, often conflicting narratives, and it's up to us to filter through it all and make sense of it.
It's exhausting. But, okay, bringing it back to Meghan for a minute. Knowing everything we've talked about, what are some concrete things she and Harry could do to address these challenges and maybe turn things around?
Well, there are a few strategies that could be really effective, but before we get into those, I think it's important to talk about the role of Netflix in all of this.
Yeah.
Because their influence on brand Meghan is significant, to say the least.
Yeah, Netflix. They're kind of the elephant in the room, aren't they?
Total wild card. They're not just hosting Meghan and Harry's content, they're a global powerhouse.
Yeah.
And that delay of Meghan's cooking show, well, people are reading into that all sorts of ways.
Right. It was a big move. Some say it's Netflix distancing themselves, trying to protect their brand. Others say it's more about the quality of the show. Who knows? But it definitely makes you wonder how much power they have in this whole equation.
Yeah. Are they truly invested in making this partnership work? Or are they ready to cut bait if things get too messy?
It's a tough call. They've got a lot riding on this deal, too. They're a business at the end of the day. Right. And at some point, you have to wonder, does all this controversy surrounding Meghan start to hurt Netflix as well?
Oh, absolutely. There's a limit, right? You can really push the envelope so far before it starts to alienate your audience.
True. Speaking of pushing the envelope, I think this whole Meghan Markle saga really highlights our obsession with celebrity culture,
It's fascinating, isn't it? We're drawn to these stories of fame and fortune, but we also kind of love to see people stumble.
It's like we can't look away. And with social media amplifying everything, those lines between public and private life are practically non-existent these days.
It's a different world, that's for sure.
It makes you wonder how anyone survives under that kind of pressure.
Right. To be constantly scrutinized, judged, it's got to take a toll.
But amidst all the drama and the chaos, maybe there's a silver lining here. Maybe this whole experience, as tough as it's been for Meghan, will ultimately help her grow and figure out who she really is.
I like that take. You know, sometimes it takes hitting rock bottom to really find yourself. And maybe this will end up being a turning point for her.
Yeah, maybe. And maybe this whole Netflix situation, even with all the hiccups, could become a chance for her to rewrite her story, connect with people in a way that feels more genuine.
It's definitely a possibility.
Well, listeners, we've covered a lot of ground today. Public perception, the power of the media, the ups and downs of celebrity life. It's been a wild ride. But as we wrap things up, I want to leave you with this. This isn't just about Meghan Markle. This is about all of us.
Yeah, it's about how we navigate this crazy world of information overload and constant scrutiny.
It's about learning to think critically, questioning the narratives we're given, and remembering that there's always more to the story than what we see on the surface.
And maybe, just maybe, having a little bit more empathy for each other along the way.
Beautifully said. So until next time, deep divers, stay curious, stay informed, and keep asking those tough questions.